Back in April of this year, I broke down and treated myself to just one little month of Game Pass, which turned into 2 little months of Game Pass because I forgot to cancel it on time. But because I plan to only have access to the catalog for a set amount of time and I wanted to maximize my investment, I tried to load up my plate with as many games as I could. I think there's about 15 of them. Not all of them on this list are from Game Pass, though. Honestly, I could have gone a lot harder, but it's probably better that I got up from my computer from time to time. Also, a couple of the games on this list were a pretty significant time sink compared to all the others. Now, if this strikes you as unemployed behavior, that's because it's exactly what it was. I recently started a new job though, and now I don't have time to act like this anymore, so I had to get it out of my system while I still could, I guess. Anyway, I just had a really great time trying all these games, and in order to talk about all of them in one video, I'm going to put them on a tier list. We're doing a tier list. A couple of notes before we get started. I'm going to do my absolute best to avoid story spoilers for all of these games, especially considering that being able to play Expedition 33 in peace before my YouTube feed became completely inundated with spoilery thumbnails was one of my primary motivations for doing this whole thing in the first place. I'm not going to be doing a super duper deep dive on any of these, and any footage I use will be from early on in the game and or out of context as best as I can, so if you haven't played them yet yourself, you should be relatively safe here. I did not finish all the games on this list, but I did spend at least a good couple hours with the ones that I didn't, sometimes upwards of like 10 plus. My footage from some of these games is probably going to look real crispy, crunchy, bad, and that's likely entirely the fault of my lower mid-range PC specs. For the vast majority of newer games, it typically automatically selects the lowest graphical settings for me, and then I very gently try to nudge it up to at least medium and fuss with some of the settings until I find it nice enough to look at. So don't go judging the graphics or frame rate or whatever based on what I've got here, unless you've got the exact same hardware as me, in which case I made this video specifically for you. And lastly, the idea that I'm going to pit these games against each other and assign them a letter grade is clickbait. Actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to be making up the categories as I go. Also, if you really loved one of these games that didn't really click for me, I'd love to hear about it. I really like hearing people talk about stuff they like. Now, if you hated one of these games that I personally enjoyed, I frankly am drastically less interested in that, but go off, I guess. So this list is basically in chronological order and the order that I played them. The first one was Atomfall. It was neat, I guess, but not really for me ultimately. I feel like this game was marketed to me as Fallout, but in the English countryside, and that's more or less what it kind of feels like, except it's nowhere near as aggressively campy as actual Fallout. I was somewhat interested in seeing yet another take on a post apocalyptic, scrappy survivor type setting, but mostly what I wanted was a going for a hike in the Lake District simulator because I can't afford to go there in real life. The environments looked very pretty in the trailers, and unfortunately, in that aspect, my PC was not willing to provide. I did enjoy the vibes in general and the little crumbs of the bigger mystery that's been set out for me to solve, but I stopped pretty early on because the combat system was just not very fun for me. I think it's meant to be kind of difficult to survive in a sort of realism way, so you have to rely pretty heavily on stealth, and on the standard difficulty, if someone bonks you on the head once, you're pretty much done. Weapons and resources are very scarce. I did turn off the more demanding survival elements and set the enemy difficulty to the lowest option, and I still found it irritating how quickly I'd get killed. You could say, well, get good. And I say, I don't know, I just wasn't feeling it in this one. I accidentally aggroed this seemingly unkillable blue guy who basically one-shots you by barfing on you, and then every time I reloaded, he just continued to follow me around the map until I ran into some other guys who shot me with arrows instead. It's probably a situation where you're really squishy in the beginning and you get more powerful and have more options as you progress, but the idea of crouch walking through the entire game desperately hoping to not get spotted just wasn't very appealing to me. I thought the quirky little NPCs were very charming, and I thought the bartering system was really neat. Indiana Jones and the Great Circle. It's great. I had a lot of fun. It's difficult to separate how much of my enjoyment of this game was the nostalgia center of my brain being activated, but I like to think I still would have had a lot of fun with this one, even if I hadn't had VHS tapes of the original 3 Indiana Jones movies on heavy rotation as a tween. Troy Baker's performance in this is a nearly perfect copy of a younger Harrison Ford. He's really got the cadence and sort of perpetual exasperation down. and the finger point. The writing has a very similar feel to the movies. There's a lot of levity and goofiness sprinkled in everywhere. The opening prologue is basically a one-to-one recreation of the opening to Raiders. I think they were just showing off. The game looks really pretty, even on my lower settings. Bit of advice, I don't know how it is on higher settings, but if you're part of the low to medium gang, turn DLSS off for this one, just off. Here it is on. Here it is off, and it will try to turn itself back on every time you open the game. At one point, I forgot about it and I ended up playing this snow level with it looking like this. And honestly, I kind of liked it. It gave it a little extra retro flavor. I don't know. This game is also an absolute buffet to people like me who just love walking around in a video game looking at stuff. The set decoration is off the charts in this one. Every location is incredibly detailed and incredibly beautiful. I mean, just have a look at this room. Look at all the stuff in here. Also, I can't explain it to you, but I really love when there's like a rumpled, dirty rug on the floor in a video game, and look at all these rugs they put here just for me. I feel kind of hypocritical to say that I didn't like Atomfall because there was so much stealth, but there's also a lot of stealth in this game, and I like this one. I think it's because if you goof up and end up having to melee your way out of it, it's actually very possible, even if you're surrounded by multiple enemies. There's some good old hand-to-hand punching combat in here, but also what I think makes this game especially entertaining is the improvised weapon melee system. You can pick up just about any object and either hit someone or throw it at them. Wood planks, glass bottles, a metal pipe, a guitar, a mandolin, a fly swatter, an umbrella, a shovel, a frying pan. Unfortunately, not a chair. I would really love it if you could pick up a chair and throw it at someone. I love when that happens in an action sequence. You can also whip crack the enemies and make them drop whatever they're holding and they'll shake their little hand like, ow. I really enjoyed the puzzles. There's actually a neat setting in this game where you can change the difficulty of the combat, but then you can also change the difficulty of the puzzles and you can change them separately, if that makes sense. Like, if you're good at combat but bad at puzzles, you can change the difficulty that way and the other way around. I think part of what makes this game so charming is actually the juxtaposition of the cutscenes briefly tricking my brain into thinking, oh, I'm watching an Indiana Jones movie. And then it drops you into a video game where the NPCs are walking around bonking into the walls and shouting hints at you after you've already solved the puzzle. And Indy just stands in the middle of the street rapidly eating 3 croissants and 4 whole oranges in one bite because you need to fill your stamina bar. Also, I just really love Gina. I want a sequel game that's just about Gina. Despite how much I really enjoyed this game, I did not actually finish it. Once I got to what I'm pretty sure is the final large open world-ish location, I was kind of tired of running around doing the side objectives, and I had already started another game on this list and became completely engrossed in that, so maybe I'll come back and finish this one day, or maybe I'll just watch someone else's playthrough just to see the ending and whatever. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion Remastered. I didn't feel like playing it actually. I don't have any personal footage of this one because I saw the special announcement that they had like shadow dropped it. I ran to my computer to install it, messed around in the character creator for like 45 minutes, loaded into the jail cell, and then very suddenly realized that for whatever reason, I just don't feel like playing Oblivion again right now. Bluey, the video game. We're gonna have to start a new subcategory. Downloaded for my nephew, DFMN, so it fits in the square better. There's a couple on here that were ones he had picked out. He's 7, he loves games. I take my current role as cool video game aunt very seriously. He thought it was okay. This game is basically a playable episode of Bluey. It's very simple and the controls are a little bit clunky, but it's cute. The animation looks just like the show and it supports up to 4 players, I think, so you could play it as a family. My nephew is kind of aging out of Bluey at this stage and he likes a little more action and adventure in his games, so he finished this one in about an hour and got kind of bored. Donut County, downloaded for my nephew. I also enjoyed it. This game is like reverse Katamari, kind of. Instead of gathering up items in an increasingly large ball, you make things fall into an increasingly large hole in the ground. I thought the art style was really cute and charming, and my nephew found everything that happened in this game extremely funny. Clair Obscur Expedition 33. It's game of the year. It's game of the last 5 years. It's more years. I don't know. This is probably going to be a lot of long-winded babbling, but man, this game was just absolutely phenomenal in basically every way. I really liked it. First off, I do feel like I have to apologize for my initial thought about this game when I saw the announcement trailer last year or whenever. I was very intrigued. I thought the visuals were stunning and the music was amazing. It definitely was a standout of whatever presentation it was a part of because I've kept tabs on it since. But the elevator pitch for the plot kind of struck me as, you know, those like YA novel adjacent POV skits people do on TikTok and Instagram reels? Like POV, you're born with a number on your arm and it's how many words you can say before you die. POV, everyone has a watch that counts down to the moment they meet their soulmate, but yours is broken. Picture this. POV, there's a number on a big rock, and every year it goes down by one, and then all the people that age did they leave? I'm so sorry. I'm so very sorry. This is my public apology to Sandfall Studios for having that private thought in my own head. However, I feel like it's perhaps an extra testament to how good this game was that it went from giving me that silly knee jerk reaction to being one, if not the most impressive, unique, heartfelt, heartbreaking, and also just really, really, really fun games I've ever played. I laughed, I cried, I shouted, "What?" out loud a bunch. I did not rage quit or lower the difficulty, which, as a chronic panic button masher and story mode frequent flyer, is an accomplishment for me. Whole game, normal difficulty. I think maybe 3 or 4 attempts was the most any of the fights took me to get the hang of. Am I ready for Sekiro? The combat just really clicked with me. It's really fun. It's turn-based, but with a heavy focus on dodging and or parrying when you're being attacked. Every enemy has a unique moveset, so it's almost like a rhythm game in that you have to internalize the flow of the different attacks in order to parry everything so you can do counter damage and also not die. There are some audio cues you can latch onto on top of learning the timing of the visual cues. I often found myself really struggling with a particular encounter, and then it was like suddenly my third eye just opened and a calm washed over my body as I simply parried every single attack and took 0 damage. The combat takes what I find to be the most fun element of, I guess, Souls inspired action games, the perfect dodges and parries, and removes the worst part of Souls inspired action games, absolutely panicking and rolling around in a circle around the boss while additional smaller enemies show up out of nowhere and kick my ass. It being turn based gives you the opportunity to take a little breath and just hang out and vibe out to the music for a while, which is incredible. Every track in this game is just absolutely beautiful. And those little moments of respite just melted away any tiny blossoming feeling of gamer rage I felt when things weren't going my way. It's also just really stylish. Like the attack animations are fun to watch, even though I've already seen them hundreds of times. I love the little hop the characters do when they're waiting for their turn. I feel like you level up fairly quickly, so you're going to be poking around in the character menus frequently, and there's a sense of constant progression. The Pictos and Lumina's system and the large selection of weapons you accumulate felt a little overwhelming to me in the beginning. There's a lot of opportunity for extremely customized and optimized builds, but I'm also happy to report that you can just use the, I don't know, this one sounds good, I guess, method like I do, and you'll be fine. Exploration is heavily incentivized by scattering resources you use to upgrade your stuff and optional bosses that drop special items throughout the map, both the like big overworld map and in each special location, which are all also extremely beautiful. The art direction in this game is just so cool. Each area is like a different biome with a unique landscape and unique enemy types. This is the first time I think I've ever made the conscious decision to just stop exploring and not fully explore every area in my first playthrough because I want to save some surprises for next time. Technically, I had a pretty simple time. The game automatically set me on the lowest graphical preset, but I bumped that up to medium with a couple things like textures set to high and went ahead and capped my frames at 60 because I've learned not to aspire to more than that, and I thought it looked fine and it ran great. I am really looking forward to playing it again in the future when I've either upgraded my PC or finally bought a current gen console, though. I can't imagine how beautiful it looks on max settings. About 15 hours in, I ran into an issue where it would crash when I tried to load my save, but I Googled and found a workaround of opening the game, changing the graphical settings back to low, and then moving them back up after it loaded in. And then I never experienced any crashes or anything during actual gameplay. The performances in this game are, this will come as a huge surprise that I'm going to say this, very good. Everyone in this game gives a really grounded, heartfelt performance. Something I found very interesting is that all of the performance capture for this game was actually done by a different team, and then the voice lines were dubbed over that. I had seen and initially believed a rumor going around that the performance capture was done in French, and that's why the English dub doesn't always line up perfectly, but I think that's untrue, actually. I saw some behind the scenes footage, and they were doing the performance capture in English, so I think it's just really difficult to dub over someone else's performance and have the lip sync be perfect. So, as good as it is, I'm really impressed. This game isn't afraid to let its characters often say nothing in a scene, but say everything with a few small facial expressions and body language. There's a lot of subtle, quiet work in here that I found to be really captivating. Story wise, okay, the non spoilers version, I guess, I suggest if you have any interest in playing this game to go in as uninformed as possible. The log line is all you need. And if you weren't paying attention when I mentioned it earlier, maybe don't even look that up. One thing I really enjoyed about it is there's very little explicit exposition, especially in the prologue of the game. It just sort of sweeps you up into the world and lets you digest what you're experiencing and come to the conclusions on your own. One of the reasons I love video games so much is they often allow you to just stumble upon little pieces of visual storytelling. Like I mentioned in the Indiana Jones bit, I'm really into set decoration in video games. It can add so much to the narrative in ways that I just don't feel like it's the same in like film and TV, because everything you're being shown in a film, for instance, is specifically being shown to you. In a video game, sometimes you find things that other people will not find. This is going to sound goofy to explain without the context, but there is an object sitting in a room in a location, a room that is entirely missable and not part of the critical path, that's found through thorough exploration of another area. There's an object just sitting in this room that made me burst into tears when I saw it because it indirectly confirmed a suspicion I had at that point about the nature of the world in this game. It's just sitting there. None of the characters comment on it. It's not interactable. The game trusts you to see it and make your own inference. In fairness, I do cry on a hair trigger, but it really got to me. And I love that. I love when a video game makes me cry. From the prologue onward, there's just a slowly building sense of dread isn't quite the right word, apprehension maybe, that builds as you're putting the pieces together until finally all the cards are laid on the table. And even after I rolled credits, I still have questions, but not in a way that I feel like unsatisfied with what was presented at me. Does that make sense? I'm hungry for more. Explain to me more. Show me more. Or don't. It's great the way it was. The game is filled with a lot of lighthearted moments too, so don't let my previous use of the word dread scare you away. But there is some heavy stuff in here. I found all of the characters to be really endearing. I don't know. I feel like I don't have a smart way to say all of this, but I thought it was really good. This game just felt like nothing else I've ever played before. I've seen quite a few comparisons to Final Fantasy X, I think. Fake gamer confession, I've never played a Final Fantasy. I can identify Sephiroth. I know what a chocobo is. I watched the Advent Children movie without any context because I thought the animation looked really pretty. I do kind of want to get in there and see what I'm missing, but I'm confused about the best place to start. I get the impression they're all connected, but they also seem very different. The general vibe appears to be sort of anime inspired fantasy, but also there's a more Western medieval fantasy one. There's one where they drive around in a photorealistic car. There's a talking dog. I don't know, all you Final Fantasy heads out there, let me know which ones I should play, or else I'll probably just play 16 because that's the one that appeals the most to me aesthetically. So yeah, Clair Obscur Expedition 33, 20 out of 10 game. There was a point once I got to the ending of Act 2 and after I finished feeling really emotional about the content of the story, I actually got really emotional just about how much I love video games. It's just my favorite storytelling medium. No movie or book or TV show has ever kept me awake at night thinking about it the way that some games have, especially this one. And I think I'll be chasing a game that made me feel the way this one did, like forever, I guess, moving forward. I'll let you know when I find one. Flock. Downloaded for my nephew. I also enjoyed it. We didn't get super far into this, but this game is really cute and really relaxing. There's a little bit of character customization. You primarily fly around on a giant bird collecting creatures to fly along behind you in a little flock, hence the title. You'll meet NPCs that give you little quests that encourage exploration and open up more of the map. You're also tasked with identifying subspecies of all the little creatures by observing them and matching them to a brief description, which, as a couple big animal nerds, my nephew and I both found really charming. Are there any more games that have like taxonomic classification as a mechanic? Because I think I'd be really into that. Little Kitty, Big City. Downloaded for my nephew, I also enjoyed it. This game is basically if Stray, an Untitled Goose Game, had a child. It's pretty cute. My nephew actually already knew all about this game before we played it. I think he has seen Gab Smolder's playthrough on YouTube like multiple times. He really enjoyed running around causing chaos, so I'll probably buy it outright next time I see it on sale so he can just play it whenever he comes over. Plus, I just saw that they're releasing an update soon with what looks like a pretty detailed character customization, so I think we'll have a lot of fun making my cats so he can play as them. Inscryption. It's really cool, but card games make me feel stupid. I had actually played the demo version of this game back when it was about to release and thought it was really neat, but wasn't into it enough to follow up with the full version, I guess, at that time. I remember it getting a lot of positive response and that there was some sort of very surprising, delightful twist at some point, and so I was really curious to see what that was. And I'm still curious because after several hours over a couple days, I haven't made it far enough to see the cool twist. The correct strategies just weren't coming to me intuitively, and I ended up getting too frustrated with it. But I do think it's really cool. I like the visual style. I like the concept of the card game. I'm not good at it. Blueprints, too potentially addictive, and I had to just delete it. Every games podcast I listened to could not stop raving about this game, and to be honest, I thought I wasn't going to be into it because I can get frustrated a bit quickly with roguelikes if I feel like I'm not progressing at all. And also, I'm not super confident in my puzzle solving abilities in games that are basically 100% puzzle. However, the first time I played this game, I sat there completely motionless for nearly 5 hours, completely engrossed. I wrote 3 pages of handwritten notes about everything in each room that I found in case it became important later. So I decided to abandon it for now because I can tell that it would result in a level of obsession that would make my almost inevitable burnout and failure feel extra bad. So I might come back to it later. Flintlock, The Siege of Dawn. It's really undercooked. This game had a really flashy announcement trailer a while ago that I thought looked pretty cool, but I haven't heard anything about it since, so I was actually kind of surprised to see that it had already released last summer. I was looking forward to the world building based on the visuals from the trailer, but it just felt really surface level. Other than the three, and there's only three on the critical path, boss fights, and these vendors in the coffee houses, there's a real lack of interesting creature or enemy design, in my opinion. I think I was promised a lot of weird stuff based on the trailer. You're basically fighting zombies, bandits, and giant spiders. If I could ban one thing from video games forever, it would be giant spiders. If you make your giant spider unique and interesting looking, I'll allow it, I guess. If it's a regular spider that's just set scale to 10, it's banned. If I could ban two things from video games, the other one is spiral staircases because I hate bumping into the wall as I try to go up and down. I got excited when I saw this big cart pulling bird, but other than a slightly different type of large bird that will try to stomp you to death, I didn't see any other unique wildlife. The nature of the relationship of the common people to the gods is never really fully explained or fleshed out that I noticed. Nobody seems terribly surprised or scared when the gods escape their magical containment and start wreaking havoc. The havoc takes place largely off screen. The zombie problem was ongoing beforehand. None of the NPCs have like a huge reaction to the arrival of a talking, glowing fox god, so maybe that's normal, but they also talk about it like it's not normal. And this is maybe real salty and nitpicky, but it felt like more of a cut corner than a design choice that the fox speaks telepathically, I guess, and not by opening his mouth. But I don't know whether that was intended to be that way or not, so that could be an unfair critique. The combat felt really clunky to me. Admittedly, I'm not especially adept at Soulsy combat, but it just felt kind of sluggish and unresponsive to me. In particular, the pistol shot with the right trigger button would just not happen about 60 to 70% of the time. I don't know if that was because trying to fire was technically canceling the previous attack animation, and that's like not allowed. I don't know enough about how video games work to give an educated guess on this. I just know that it made me grumpy. The traversal didn't feel as fluid as I think they were going for. You pretty quickly get a double jump and an air dash, and then also these little altars that open up triangle portals that you can fly through. But I found a lot of the platforming areas to be a little unclear about whether you were supposed to essentially triple jump over a huge distance, or if you need to go find one of those portal opening things, and the fall damage will just kill you from a relatively low height, and then you have to backtrack from wherever your last rest point was. So even though I wasn't really feeling this one after an hour or so, I saw that the entire story was only 7 to 8 hours long, so I decided to slog through it kind of out of spite, but also out of a genuine hope that something really cool would eventually happen. The final explorable area I thought was really cool looking. I thought the ending was very abrupt. I think this game had a lot of potential to be really neat with further development maybe, but as it was, it just felt like a rough draft. I hate being negative about video games. Something positive. I really like this going down a ladder animation. It's probably the silliest one I've ever seen. Love and Deepspace. I downloaded this game without knowing anything about it other than Rebecca Ford, the creative director of Warframe, keeps talking about it on dev streams, and I'm perplexed. Now, I'm no stranger nor foe to romance in games, but I'm more accustomed to the action-adventure RPG with dateable companions model rather than this, which is primarily a dating/boyfriend simulator and visual novel with occasional small combat sequences. So I feel kind of like I wandered into the wrong lecture hall on the first day of school, but I haven't yet fully realized that I did not actually sign up for this class. I'm really enjoying the visual novel part, to be honest. It's the type of campy sci-fi premise that I unironically enjoy. It's the perfect pace for clicking through a couple chapters before bed at night, and it's also not so compelling that I'll accidentally stay up too late. The little combat sections are pretty simple, and I am thankful that the iPad controls are very easy to use. I don't know what all these little resources that I'm accumulating do, and I'm probably not going to attempt to find out. I like the little texting bits and the photo booth simulator. Listen, these boys are all real cute, but I have not fallen in love with any of them yet. And the other day, I had to sit through each of them slowly singing happy birthday to me in a sultry voice, and I wasn't able to skip it, so I think I actually have to hit the eject button and friend zone all of them. I haven't met Silas yet, who seems to be the fan favorite, so maybe he's my soulmate. I don't know. Since I was on the iPad, Warframe for iOS. If you're a returning viewer to this channel, then you will know that I semi-recently became completely obsessed with Warframe, so it makes sense that I would download this version and see what's going on. I actually really like how crunchy the graphics look. It's kind of fun. But once I got my accounts linked and I got in there, the control scheme sent me into an immediate panic spiral. I'm too old. My synapses are too closed. I don't think I can become an iPad kid. I'm keeping it installed though because I could use it for Kim chats. If they add more of those in the future, I think I could just about manage to walk across the room over to the computer and hit the interact button. And because I want to collect all of the possible linked accounts, so Warframe for Nintendo Switch. I sure wish I could tell you what it's like, but apparently even if it's the only game installed, my Switch Lite does not have enough disk space to run it. If I end up finding or buying a micro SD card before I finish editing this video, I'll update this part, but also I don't have an Xbox, so I guess I can't get a full collection of linked accounts anyway. Balatro. Balatro? Initially, this one was going to join Inscryption in the really cool but card games make me feel stupid category. It is really cool. It did make me feel stupid. The music and visuals are really vibey and hypnotic. All the little sound effects when you click on the cards and the mechanic of buying and opening card packs is really satisfying. The issue is, though, I don't know how to play poker, and for the first several runs, I felt really frustrated because I felt like I had no options because even though I looked at the list of playable hands, I didn't remember all of them. I started to get roguelike fatigue really quickly because I couldn't even get past the third starter level. But I came back the next day, started getting a couple more helpful Joker cards, looked at the list of hands again and realized I could have been playing 3 of a kinds all along and that a full house is a thing that exists. I finally got to the second round of levels. I got some really helpful Joker cards, started using Celestial cards, and had my first run that I considered to be very good. I got this pair of Joker cards where one added a large large buff to face cards, and then the other made it so all cards were considered face cards, and I felt completely unstoppable. Until I got to a level where all face cards were debuffed. And in a panic, I sold the Joker that made all cards face cards, but then I immediately found out that the Joker that added the extra buff to face cards essentially negated the debuff, so I regretted my actions and then I lost the run. And then I immediately started a new one. So now that the game has clicked for me and I'm having a great time, I have to move it to the too addictive, had to delete category. I'm probably going to download it on my iPad. Metaphor, ReFantazio. It's really neat, but I don't think this one's for me. I really wanted to like it more than I did. I feel like I'm missing something. I remember it was all anyone could talk about for like weeks when it first released. It starts off really cool. I love all the different art styles and character designs. I really love these little animated portraits when the characters are talking. It kind of breaks the fourth wall a bit in the beginning prologue bit, and I was, and maybe still am, so curious to see where this goes, but it took a really long time before I got to any combat, and when I got there, I wasn't feeling it so much. Unfortunately, I am comparing it to Expedition 33, which is probably kind of unfair, but listen, the heart wants what the heart wants, and my heart wants to parry. Also, I do really like all the moving design elements and stuff, but those combined with a lot of layering of voice lines and audio that was happening every time a battle started made me feel really overstimulated. I did start playing this on a day that I already felt extremely tired, so that could be part of it. I might come back to this one in the future, maybe. Nine Souls. It's great. It's really cool. I had a lot of fun. I'm going to put it in front of Indiana Jones because by tier list rules, that means I like it more, I think. It's not a competition. This game is half platforming, half parrying, and it's so cool. It's so fun. The hand-drawn 2D animation art style is super pretty. I will offer a warning that there is some gore, and the event/premise that kicks off the plot is pretty disturbing, but both of these aspects are heavily softened by the art style. The story goes in a pretty bonkers direction that I did not at all expect very early on, and I wouldn't want to ruin it for anyone, so I'm going to keep this brief. Along with the platforming, this game has some standard Souls-like elements like resting and respawning at save points, running back to whatever killed you to pick up your points, and unlocking shortcuts. Combat is heavily focused on parrying and then dodging unparryable attacks. By my personal assessment, the combat is decently challenging right out of the gate. You really cannot button mash your way out of this. After a couple runs through the first area, dying before ever reaching a second rest point, I flirted with the idea of lowering the difficulty to story mode. But when I saw that I wouldn't be able to raise it back up to normal if I did so, the stubbornness center of my brain activated and I just locked the heck in. It took me a couple attempts, but after defeating the first big boy boss, I really thought it was worth it to not lower the difficulty. You'll also start getting more details about the overall plot and pick up a few more special mechanics. I didn't have time to finish this one before I canceled my Game Pass subscription, but this is definitely one that I plan to purchase outright and come back to later. Avowed. It was okay. That feels really dismissive. As evidenced by my reaction to the Oblivion remake early in the video, I think it's just that my appetite for this style of game has really waned in my advanced age. There were a lot of comparisons to Skyrim flying around when Avowed was upcoming and then released, and hey, I sure played a lot of hours of Skyrim 10 years ago. The thing is, while I don't feel any desire to return to any of those similar feeling games I've played previously, I will very happily fart around in a new one for at least a couple hours. I haven't played any of the Pillars of Eternity games, so this is a whole new universe to me. I enjoyed creating my mushroom person in the character creator. I like how colorful and saturated the world is. I like that this furry blue guy with big ears is in here. I like that they put a little platforming in. It is fun to jump and climb around. The combat isn't really for me, and I did reduce the difficulty to story mode so I could get into what I really enjoy most in a Skyrim, like looting everything and then selling everything and then having a million gold coins for no reason, racing around the map looking for NPCs that want to give me a quirky little side quest, and just finishing the story having had an easy breezy, no thoughts, head empty time. I thought this grimoire that I picked up that let me cast a couple different spells is a cool little weapon, but I have to be honest with both you and myself and know that no matter what kind of character I plan to make in the beginning, I'll eventually end up playing as a cowardly little stealth archer. until I get ambushed and then I have to pull out the sword and shield, which I do like that you can toggle really quickly between two weapon loadouts. Also, that I apparently just have access to magic missile. I didn't get super far into the story, but so far it feels like you're standard, you're the chosen one, and there's a lot of problems in this world of varying size, and it's up to you specifically to resolve all of them. Open world fantasy RPG premise, which is fine. Not every story you interact with has to change your life. Maybe something really cool happens later. I am a little curious. Creature and enemy design wise, so far it seems pretty standard. Bandits, kobolds, ghosts, bears, giant spiders.
Careful. Looks like spiders nearby.
My computer really was not up to the challenge for this one. I didn't see a huge difference when I bumped it up to medium, so I ran it on the recommended low preset. And look, I'm not a graphics snob by any means, but it would have been nice if the game that's meant to look really pretty looked just a little bit nicer. I won't be rushing back to this one, but in the future, if it's on sale for a decent discount and I have a better setup and some time to kill, I'll probably buy this just so I can finish it. Special mention.
Jusant.
I actually played this game the previous time I had a Game Pass subscription back in December of 2023. So technically it shouldn't be on this list, but I just really wanted to tell you about it because I loved it so much. It honestly might have been my favorite game I played that year if you made me pick one. I don't remember what else I played that year. Starfield, I guess? Baldur's Gate 3 was released in 2023, but I didn't install it until the following spring, so it doesn't count. I thought this game was just so pretty and so charming and relaxing. It's a slow paced climbing puzzle platformer. It's very gentle and chill. You'll end up climbing this impossibly high tower, exploring an abandoned city, and finding notes and journals and bits of environmental storytelling along the way to reveal what happened to the city's former inhabitants and why they left. There's a cute little guy in here. It only takes about 5 hours to finish. And my additional tip is maybe you should wait until like winter to play it so you can curl up with a soft blanket and a hot cocoa because that's how I played it and I think it really did enhance the experience. Okay, that's the end of the list. I don't really know how to end this. Let me know what you thought of these games if you've played them. Let me know if you know of a game that can fill the Clair Obscur Expedition 33 shaped hole in my heart. Let me know why French video games are so good. Let me know if you had a good day. I hope you had a good day. Okay, thank you for watching. Goodbye.